The growth of organic Yerba Mate in South America. The story of organic Yerba Mate is truly one of the most fascinating comeback stories in the world of modern agriculture. It is a long, winding journey that travels from ancient indigenous wisdom through colonial experimentation and industrial expansion, finally arriving at a modern global health phenomenon. All the while, it has managed to stay deeply rooted in the lush, red-earthed forests of South America. If you have ever held a warm gourd in your hands or felt the steady, jitter-free lift of a mate-infused drink, you have touched a piece of this history. If you're interested in how this plant grows, not just as a commercial crop, but as a living cultural icon, this guide is for you. We are going to walk through the entire life cycle of organic Yerba Mate, tracing its path from the deep, cool shade of the Atlantic forest all the way to your morning ritual, the deep roots of the drink of the gods. To truly understand how Yerba Mate grows today and why the organic movement is so vital, we have to look back at its origins. Long before European settlers arrived with their own ideas of farming, the Guaraní and Tupi people of what is now Paraguay, southern Brazil, and northeastern Argentina had already mastered the secrets of Ilex paraguariensis. They didn't just stumble upon it, they lived with it. They called the plant Ka'a, which in their language simply means the herb or the plant. For them, it wasn't just a beverage to help them wake up, it was a sacred gift from the gods. It provided the strength they needed for long treks through the jungle, the endurance for hunting, and a spiritual connection during communal gatherings. They believed that by drinking the infusion, they were consuming the energy of the forest itself. Historically, Yerba Mate wasn't farmed in rows. It was harvested from wild trees growing in the dense, multi-layered shade of the subtropical rainforest. The tree is naturally a sub-canopy species, meaning it likes to have bigger neighbors towering over it. The story of its cultivation took a strange turn in the 1600s with the arrival of the Jesuits. They recognized the economic and social value of the drink, but faced a massive problem. They couldn't figure out how to grow the trees from seeds. For decades, it remained a mystery why mate seeds wouldn't sprout in a garden. Eventually, they discovered the secret. The seeds traditionally required passing through the digestive tract of birds. The stomach acid of the birds would scarify the tough outer shell of the seed, allowing it to germinate once it hit the ground. The Jesuits eventually tamed the plant by mimicking this process, creating the first Yerba Mate plantations. Today, while much of the industrial farming world has moved toward high-yield, sunny monocultures, the organic movement is actually a beautiful return to those ancient shaded roots. It is an admission that the forest knew best all along, where the magic happens, the growing region. Yerba Mate is incredibly picky about its home, unlike tea or coffee, which have been successfully transplanted to dozens of countries across the globe. Yerba Mate refuses to thrive just anywhere. It remains stubbornly tied to its ancestral lands. It only grows in a very specific heart-shaped corner of South America, Argentina, specifically the provinces of Misiones and northern Corrientes. Brazil, across the southern states of Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. Paraguay, predominantly in the eastern regions. These regions share a secret sauce of environmental factors. First, there is the soil, a vibrant, iron-rich red earth known as laterite. It's so red it looks painted, and it's packed with the minerals the mate tree craves. Combine that with high humidity, consistent rainfall throughout the year, and a subtropical climate that lacks extreme heat or prolonged deep freezes, and you have the only place on earth where Yerba Mate feels truly at home. If you try to grow it elsewhere, the plant might survive, but it often loses that complex nutrient profile and the distinctive flavor that makes it famous. The organic difference, a tale of two systems. In the world of Yerba Mate, organic is a word that carries a lot of weight. It isn't just about what the farmers don't do, like using synthetic sprays. It's about the entire philosophy of the growth system. To see the value of organic, you first have to see what it's replacing. The conventional way, sun and stress. Most of the standard Yerba Mate you find on supermarket shelves comes from full sun monocultures. To create these farms, large tracts of land are cleared of all other vegetation. The Yerba Mate trees are then planted in tight, efficient rows exposed to the direct, harsh glare of the South American sun. While this makes the trees grow faster, allowing for a quicker return on investment, it places the plants under immense biological stress. Because they aren't protected by a forest canopy, they lose moisture quickly and are forced to work harder to survive. This stress makes them loud to the local insect population, effectively signaling that they are vulnerable. To protect these stressed trees, conventional farmers often rely on synthetic pesticides and chemical fertilizers to keep the soil from becoming completely depleted. The organic agroforestry way, harmony and shade. Organic Yerba Mate, particularly the premium varieties that enthusiasts seek out, is grown using what scientists call agroforestry systems, AFS. If you walked into one of these farms, you might not even realize you were on a farm at all. It looks like a thriving, healthy forest. In this system, farmers plant the Yerba Mate trees underneath the existing canopy of the rainforest. They live alongside native giants like the Araucaria, the majestic Paraná pine, or the Guatambu. Why does this method matter so much? One, natural shade protection. Since Yerba Mate is naturally a shade-loving tree, the forest canopy acts as a giant umbrella. Under this dappled light, the leaves develop more slowly. This slow-motion growth is a good thing. It allows the leaves to accumulate a much higher concentration of antioxidants and minerals. It also prevents the development of harsh tannins, resulting in a flavor that is smoother and far less bitter than sun-grown mate. 2. The gift of natural fertilization. In an organic forest, the soil is alive. Falling leaves from the surrounding nurse trees rot on the ground, creating a thick, nutrient-rich mulch. This natural compost cycle feeds the mate trees exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. There is no need for nitrogen-based chemicals because the forest provides its own lunch. 3. Built-in security, biodiversity. When you keep the forest intact, you keep the residents. Birds, spiders, and beneficial predatory insects live in the surrounding trees. They act as a natural security team, patrolling the mate trees and eating the pests that would otherwise require chemical intervention. It's a self-regulating ecosystem where the farmer works with nature rather than trying to beat it into submission. The long journey from seed to your first sip. Growing organic Yerba Mate is a masterclass in the art of patience. You can't just decide to be a mate farmer and have a harvest 6 months later. It requires years of stewardship and careful observation before the first leaf is ever plucked. 1. The nursery, starting small. Everything starts with the mother trees. Organic farmers identify the healthiest, most resilient trees in the wild or on their land and harvest their berries, which contain the seeds. Because germinating mate seeds is still a bit of a challenge, this happens in a highly controlled nursery environment. The seeds are soaked and planted in rich organic soil. For their first 6 to 12 months, these infant plants are incredibly delicate. They are sensitive to even a touch of frost or a few hours of too much sun. They are pampered in the nursery until they have a strong enough root system and a sturdy enough stem to handle the real world of the forest. 2. Planting and the quiet years. Once the seedlings are ready, they are transplanted into the forest or the organic plot. This is where the farmer's patience is truly tested. For the first 2 years, the young trees are small and vulnerable to being choked out by aggressive weeds or tall grasses. In a conventional setup, a farmer might just spray herbicide. But in organic farming, this work is done by hand or through cover cropping. Farmers might plant nitrogen-fixing plants like beans or clover around the base of the young mate trees. These cover crops crowd out the bad weeds, keep the soil moist, and actually pump nutrients into the earth to help the mate tree grow. 3. The first haircut. Structural pruning around year 3 or 4, the tree is finally big enough to work with, but we aren't at the harvest stage yet. Instead, the farmer performs a formative pruning. If left to its own devices, a Yerba Mate tree can grow 50 feet tall, which is impossible to harvest by hand. The farmer carefully snips the top and certain branches to encourage the tree to grow wide, low, and bushy. This creates more surface area for leaves to grow and keeps the good stuff within reach of the harvesters. It's a bit like training a bonsai tree, but on a much larger forest-sized scale. For the harvest, the cosecha. Finally, usually by year 5 or 6, the tree is ready for its first real harvest. But here is the big difference. A mature organic Yerba Mate tree is typically harvested only every 2 years. In the conventional world, trees are often stripped of their leaves every single year to maximize profit. However, organic philosophy dictates that the tree needs a full year of rest to recover its strength and replenish its leaves. This 2-year cycle ensures that the tree stays healthy for decades. Some trees can produce for over 100 years, and ensures that the leaves you eventually drink are packed with the maximum amount of nutrients. The harvest itself is a beautiful, labor-intensive tradition. It is almost always done by hand. Skilled harvesters, known as tarefaros, move through the trees with specialized shears. They aren't just hacking away, they are looking for a very specific balance of mature dark green leaves and the tender new sprouts. This hand selection is something a machine simply cannot replicate. Traditional processing, the art of the flame and the weight. Once the branches are cut and bundled into large burlap squares, called ponchadas, the clock starts ticking. Yerba Mate is a live product, and if the leaves sit around for too long, they will start to ferment and turn brown, losing their flavor and health benefits. They need to get to the processing facility, the secadero, quickly. Step 1, El Sapeco, the flash fire. This is perhaps the most dramatic part of the whole process. Within 24 hours of being cut, the branches are passed through a direct flame or a high-heat rotating drum for just a few seconds. It looks like the leaves are being burned, but it's actually a very precise flash killing of the enzymes. This heat instantly stops the leaves from wilting or oxidizing. It locks in the bright green color and, more importantly, seals the vitamins and antioxidants inside the leaf. It's the moment the Yerba Mate is born as a tea. Step 2, drying, secado. After the flash fire, the leaves are still full of moisture. They need to be dried out so they can be stored. They are spread out on conveyor belts or racks and exposed to a steady stream of hot air for several hours. In the organic world, the method of drying is a huge topic of conversation. Traditionally, wood fires were used, which gave the mate a smoky flavor. However, some studies suggested that heavy smoke could introduce unwanted compounds called PAHs. Because of this, many modern organic brands have moved to the sin humo, or the smoke-free method, and they use clean, filtered hot air fueled by biomass or heat exchangers. The result, a much cleaner, more floral and truer taste of the herb itself. Step 3, the long sleep, estacionamiento. This is the step that separates the good yerba from the extraordinary yerba. Once the leaves are dry, they are coarsely crushed into what is called canchada. But it isn't ready to drink yet. It's too young. It tastes harsh, like mown grass, and can be hard on the stomach. Conventional mate is often accelerated. It's put into heated chambers with high humidity to force it to age in just 30 to 60 days. Organic mate is allowed to take its time. It is stored in breathable bags in cool, airy warehouses for anywhere from 12 to 24 months. During this long natural aging process, the yerba undergoes a chemical transformation. The harsh green notes soften. The flavor deepens, developing complex, nutty, woody, and sweet undertones. It becomes more balanced, more sophisticated, and much easier on your digestion. It is the difference between a cheap young wine and a vintage that has been allowed to reach its full potential. Why the world is falling in love with organic mate. You've probably noticed Yerba Mate popping up everywhere lately, from the sparkling cans in the refrigerated aisle of the grocery store to the specialized mate bars in big cities. The global market for this herb is growing at a staggering rate. But why is the organic sector the one leading the charge? There are 3 big reasons for this sudden surge in popularity. 1. The search for clean energy. We live in a tired world. People are increasingly looking for ways to stay alert without the crash and burn cycle of coffee or the chemical-heavy jitters of synthetic energy drinks. Yerba Mate is unique because it contains a holy trinity of stimulants. You have caffeine for the alertness, but you also have theobromine, the same feel-good chemical found in high-quality dark chocolate, and theophylline. These 3 work together to provide what fans call calm alertness. You get the focus, but without the heart palpitations or the 2 p.m. caffeine crash. Organic Mate, because it is grown slowly in the shade, often has the most balanced ratio of these compounds. 2, drinking for the planet. Modern consumers are smarter than ever. They don't just want a drink that makes them feel good. They want a drink they can feel good about. They want to know that their morning habit isn't contributing to the destruction of the Amazon or the Atlantic forest. Organic Yerba Mate is a hero crop in this regard. Because it thrives in an agroforestry setting, it gives local farmers a financial reason to keep the forest standing. If a farmer can make a good living by harvesting mate from under the trees, they won't cut those trees down to make room for soy or cattle. It's one of the rare cases where consuming more of a product can actually help protect more acreage of the rainforest. 3, the power of regenerative agriculture. Some pioneering organic brands have taken things a step further into regenerative agriculture. This goes beyond just doing no harm. It's about active restoration. They work with indigenous communities and small-scale farmers to replant native tree species and restore biodiversity to land that was previously degraded by old-fashioned farming. When you buy organic mate from these sources, you are effectively funding a massive reforestation project with every sip. A summary of the journey. If we were to take one single organic leaf and follow it from the very beginning to the very end, its journey would look like a beautiful slow-motion movie. The beginning. It starts as a tiny seed, handpicked from a wild mother tree in the red mineral-rich soil of Misiones. The nursery? It spends a year being protected and pampered in a nursery, growing its first set of leaves. The forest? It is planted under the protective arms of a giant Paraná pine, where it spends the next several years growing slowly in the dappled sunlight. The harvest? On a crisp, cool winter morning, a terrafero carefully snips the branch by hand, ensuring the tree stays healthy for the next season. The transformation. It meets the sapeco flame for a few seconds to lock in its life force, then dries slowly in a stream of clean, smoke-free air. The maturation. It is tucked away in a quiet warehouse for 2 years, where it sleeps and develops its rich, mellow personality. The arrival. Finally, it is ground to the perfect consistency, packaged in a paper bag, and shipped across the ocean to land in your kitchen. Final thoughts on the green gold. Organic Yerba Mate is a rare and beautiful example of a product where the most modern, health-conscious, and eco-friendly choice is actually the one that most closely follows the ancient traditional way of doing things. By choosing organic, you aren't just avoiding chemicals. You are supporting a system that respects the tree, the soil, the forest, and the hardworking people who have kept this tradition alive for centuries. It's a drink that asks you to slow down. From the years it takes to grow to the long months it takes to age, Yerba Mate is not a fast food product. Even the way it's prepared, slowly sipping from a gourd and refilling the water, encourages a moment of reflection or a shared conversation with a friend. So, the next time you prepare a mate, take a second to think about that red soil, the shade of the Atlantic forest, and the years of patience that went into your cup. You aren't just drinking a tea, you're drinking the spirit of a forest that has been brought back to life.